Anyone here watch an anime called Sorcerer Stabber Orphen as a kid? Yeah, me neither. I did own the PS2 game, though, which a friend I've long forgotten the name and address of left at my house. If you're out there, dude, let me know, because my conscience is killing me about this. So the first warning flag you'll notice is that this game is based off an anime. Well, you can relax, because the story in Scion of Sorcery is standalone, meaning you don't need to have watched the show to understand what the hell's going on here. Basically, Orphen and crew accidentally board a ship headed away from where they intended to go. After it's attacked by monsters, it sinks and strands them on a place called... what again?
We're on Chaos Island.
Which is where? A few miles off Disorder Coast? Anywho, Orphen ends up helping whoever you decided to partner up with on the ship and gets involved with their story. However, after seeing it through to the end, he gets transported back to the Night of the Storm, minus one cast member, forcing him to go through all the characters before the final conclusion. Sort of like an anime version of Groundhog Day. The individual narratives are good in their own right, but it's the ultimate resolution that makes the whole thing worth it. I won't spoil anything, but the big payoff when you learn how everything and everyone intersect with each other is worth the price of admission alone. Like I said, since most of the cast is new, the stories based around them don't feel forced and flow well into the structure of gameplay. But the original characters? Let's talk about them. See this guy with the cape? Depending on how you look at it, he's either the lamest or the awesomest character in the whole game. Sure, on one hand, he's a sniveling, thieving little punk, but on the other, check out his name.
I'm Volcano Vulcan from the streets of Masmaturia.
Volcano Vulcan. If there is a manlier, more testosterone-packed name out there, by all means, tell me what it is. He's not the only one like this either. Magnus may be weak, but at least he's improving. Orphen may be a dick, but at least he's efficient. As is common in anime, everyone has their quirks, but also redeeming factors as well. Except for one. Cleo.
Look! My jeans are ruined! Oh, Orphen! I'm not talking to you. In case you hadn't noticed, we are still surrounded by bookshelves. This is so unfair. Of course, I could understand if it was only Magnus, but she's even got you wrapped around her little finger. You lazy, rotten, useless, mean, grumpy old sorcerer!
You think I'm picking and choosing these lines to make her look bad, but no. This is all of them. All her dialogue consists of is attitude and whining. And FYI, unlike Orphen and Magnus, she can't use magic, officially making her the most useless member of the entire team. And unless you're disturbed, she's not even old enough to be easy on the eyes. So to recap, Cleo isn't capable of providing good dialogue, combat support, or sex appeal, meaning this little brat is a complete waste.
Who are you calling a brat?
You! So you're probably wondering how the gameplay fares, and it's a pretty unique system. There are no random encounters here, thank goodness. Instead, every battle in the game takes place at a preset location, but that doesn't mean the fights themselves are scripted. You target one foe at a time and fight them off using spells. There are different elements to play around with, but your magic essentially falls into three categories: area of effect, projectiles, and your sword. Using them effectively, however, requires a lot of tactile input. By timing it, you can chain several sword attacks together. All three spell types can be charged for more power, but if you're hit during the charge, you waste the attack, and I think you take more damage as well. You have a shield as well, and you're gonna need it. There's just no powering your way through some of these fights. You have to rapidly balance out which target to attack, how to do so, and watching enemy patterns to make sure you don't get nailed yourself. This is made even more important by the picture book, which functions as your monster encyclopedia and gains a new entry every time you complete a battle. Here's the catch. The quality of the entry improves depending on how well you fight. Even though admittedly the difficulty curve isn't that steep, it's a surprisingly effective way to get you to do better in a battle, because just for curiosity's sake, you want to know what kind of picture you'll get for a flawless performance. Outside of combat, there's a ton of really clever puzzles to solve and lots of areas to explore. The controls are a bit wonky though. I mean, look at how weird this jumping is. I'm so glad I don't have to use this in any awkward platforming segments. Oh, and get this. How do you think you control the camera? With the right stick? No, it's L1 and R1. May I ask why? The PS2 controller was designed specifically to make viewing your surroundings easier. So what do they use the extra stick for? The first-person view. What? And because you're platforming and navigating your way through tight passageways all the time, the camera is something you'll be adjusting constantly, permanently ingraining this backwards-ass setup into your brain. I swear to God, the next time I play Rogue Galaxy, I'm going to try turning the camera with the shoulder buttons. And that brings me to the final element of Orphen, the production value. I may be a fan of this game, but even I admit, the graphics look like crap. Even when the PS2 was a current-gen console, this looked like crap. I encountered an entire room that was totally dark. At first, I didn't understand what was going on. All the other rooms had solid brick walls with torches and some vines here and there. The barriers are still there, but there's nothing visibly blocking my path. Looking at it a second time, though, I think I know what happened. They forgot to put textures on all the walls. Just wow. You really gotta be pulling some overtime to make a mistake that bad. Also, we've got some fantastic lip syncing going on here.
It wasn't me. I mean, I didn't. It was the master. Hey, what was that?
Not only that, but the developers seem to have cut corners in other ways as well. I've noticed several occasions where the voice clips were reused.
Oh, wow! Oh, wow!
This is not good. This is not good.
Magnus! Magnus!
Come on, there wasn't even a period of time between those two. But the shining example of this is Orphen himself. I know it's an anime trope that yelling gives you power, but Orphen has one of the worst cases of it I've ever seen. Every time you start charging a spell, even a little bit, he'll call out its name.
The bite of lightning! The bite of lightning! The bite of lightning!
Jason!
Most anime get away with this because at the very least, the voice actor is recording a new VO for every instance of the attack. But here, it's the same voice clip over and over and over and over. I mean, can you imagine the real-world problems this guy has to deal with?
The bite of lightning!
It's $50 an hour, and I don't do weird shit. You have protection, right?
The shield of immunity!
The flatulence of hell. Stink. Charge up to increase the number of projectiles.
Alright, now here's a little bit of Orphen trivia for you. If the announcer that shows up whenever you learn a new spell sounds familiar, that's because it's Paul Eiding, who voiced Roy Campbell from Metal Gear. In fact, there's a lot of famous talent in this game, including Tara Strong as Mar, Debbie Derryberry as Dorton, and Quentin Flynn as Orphen, who ironically also voiced Raiden, which makes it kind of funny in hindsight that you start the game with the bite of lightning. Orphen's real name is oh dear. Yeah, Orphen's fine. The anime ran for 2 seasons and 47 episodes, which were all released in a box set in 2009. There are some minor differences in character personalities, but not much was lost in translation. One thing to note is that Orphen becomes increasingly closer to Cleo over the series. In fact, by the end of it, he develops a serious romantic interest in her. Excuse me. Really? You were that desperate? I know you needed to fill your life with something after Azalea went batshit, but that's another story. Orphen was in a crossover manga with Slayers, the concept of which in itself was awesome, But even more so, there was a Japan-only PSP game called Heroes Fantasia, which not only had Orphen and Lena, but also Yomiko Reedman from ROD, which together pretty much defined my personal introduction to anime. Hell, I'm surprised this game doesn't have a PSP remake. The controls would have been a perfect fit. So, what? Is this a good game or not? Depends on how you look at it. I, of course, enjoy it, but I grew up with it, so I'm naturally a little bit biased. But despite some throwaways, I honestly do enjoy the characters, and as I said, the story is phenomenal. It's got a very unique combat system that takes some risks that, for the most part, pay off. It's not going to change your life, but it is a very underrated gem in my own opinion. And that's what this series is all about.